Good evening. This, the 42nd meeting of the 72nd term of the Baltimore City Council, is now called to order. If you have cell phones, we ask that you please turn them off or put them on vibrate. Tonight's invocation will be observed by way of a moment of silence. We ask everybody to bow in a moment of silence. Thank you. The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The clerk will call the rolls of the members.
President Young, Cohen, Scott, Dorsey, Schleifer, Middleton, Pinkett, Burnett, Bullock, Reisinger, Costello, Stokes, Sneed, Clark. Mr. President, we have a quorum.
Thank you. This evening we welcome Rich Aquo, founder of and CIO of Generosity Global. Welcome.
Thank you. I think that's good. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for having me here. Thank you to Councilman Isaac Schleifer for extending the invitation. My name is Rich Aquo. I am the founder and Chief Impact Officer for Generosity Global. We are a Baltimore-based nonprofit organization, and we focus in the capacity of serving the homeless citizens of Baltimore, and have been doing that for the past 11 years without cease. We focus on providing food, home-cooked meals, clothing, toiletries, and also providing haircuts and hygiene products. And in a few short weeks, we have been working hard over the past couple of years to launch a shower truck, Baltimore first mobile shower truck that would allow men and women who are living on the streets to have access to a daily shower. And so we are totally excited about that. That particular initiative will have the capacity to give men and women on the streets access to actually up to 120 people can shower each day. So I think that's something pretty awesome. Our city has a lack of accessible shower units, and so we want to have this solution so people can have places that they can take a shower, as well as feel human again, as well as meet their personal daily hygiene. And so over the course of the year, we have gotten this thing to a point where we are ready to launch. And one of the biggest obstacles that we have been facing thus far, not a big obstacle, but I think it's an obstacle that the city can certainly be part of it. We are looking for collaboration. We are looking for partnerships, and it is a cost issue. My initial attempts to reach various departments citywide that the shower truck is going to interact with has either gone unanswered, and the few contacts and connections that I have made in terms of cost, it's becoming very costly. For example, one of the things that we would need is to have access to a fire hydrant to hook up the shower truck to, and at that particular need, it's the cost to that is $85 per hookup. And when I do my math, and we scale that up to 6 days, operating 6 days a week, 7 days a week for an entire month, that's close to $2,000 for a nonprofit organization to pay, which we cannot afford. And certainly we are looking for accommodations from the city, accommodations and concessions from Baltimore City to be partners in this initiative to help us not only access water, but also dispose of the water, as well as street parking. So again, Generosity Shower is launching in a few weeks. We are excited. We are excited about providing this service that is going to serve men and women in the homeless community. And I believe that is a great thing for Baltimore City, something positive, something impactful, and something that can certainly help restore hope, dignity, and self-esteem to those who have been beaten and battered down by the system, or maybe by personal choice. So I just really want to come and share that with you all, to take it into account, to take it into considerations, and hopefully by the end of this meeting there could be a couple of phone calls or emails sent out and put Generosity Global and the Generosity Shower Truck in touch with the right departments that can make the necessary concessions to allow us to fully operate this truck without a financial burden to the organization. So thank you all so much for your time, and certainly if you want a business card or if you want to find out more, you can visit us online. Our website is generosityglobal.org. Again, generosityglobal.org, and you will learn everything about what we've been doing in Baltimore City for the past 11 years. Thank you all so much, and I appreciate you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Rich, I want you to see Carolyn, because I think the Office of Homeless Services should be working with you with some kind of funding for that hookup for free showers for homeless people.
Thank you, Mr. President.
We're going to try to see if we can make that happen. Can't promise, but
let's make it happen.
Okay.
Thank you.
You said just make it happen.
Let's make it happen.
Councilman Henry.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know we don't usually comment on the spotlights, but I just wanted to call my colleagues' attention to the fact this is a tremendously important issue, and one in which the city, quite frankly, could be doing more, not even from a perspective of it needing to cost more, but I know that I've had to work with public facilities in my own district just to get them to let more of the public use indoor restrooms more frequently. A lot of times the people running different buildings don't want to let the public come in and use the bathroom, even though it's a public building. And I know that the people downtown at the tops of some of these agencies, I know that they get it, but they haven't pushed the message all the way down to the ground level. And I just wanted to say that we're with you and we're trying.
Thank you, Councilman.
And thank you very much for taking on this great responsibility.
Thank you all so much. I truly appreciate it, and you all have a blessed evening.
Thank you. We'll now proceed with the adoption of the journal.
Mr. President, the journal of the proceedings from the 2 p.m. and 5 p.m. August 6 City Council meetings is on council members' desks.
Is there a motion to approve the journal? Motion by Councilman Scott, second by Councilman Henry. All those in favor of adopting the journal say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion carried and the journal is adopted. Bills signed by the mayor are on pages 2 to 7 of the agenda. Executive nomination.
EA 18-0170, Patrick Lundberg, Member Compensation Committee for Elected Officials, District 1.
This has been assigned to the Executive Appointments Committee.
EA 18-0171, Alexander Smith, Member Compensation Committee for Elected Officials, District 1.
This has been assigned to the Executive Appointments Committee.
EA 18-0172, Thurman Zully-Kaufer, Member Compensation Committee for Elected Officials.
This has been assigned to the Executive Appointments Committee.
EA 18-0173, Vernon Andrew Reed Jr., Member Compensation Committee for Elected Officials, District 8.
This has been assigned to the Executive Appointments Committee.
EA 18-0174, Claire Zominski Siegel, Member Compensation Committee for Elected Officials, District 14.
This has been assigned to the Executive Appointments Committee.
EA 18-0175, Kenneth P. Taylor Sr., Member Compensation Committee for Elected Officials, District 6.
This has been assigned to the Executive Appointments Committee.
EA 18-0176, Charles G. Tilden III, Member Compensation Committee for Elected Officials, District 5.
This has been assigned to the Executive Appointments Committee. Bills to be introduced.
City Council Bill 18-0277, Zoning IMU Industrial Mixed-Use Zoning Districts. For the purpose of establishing a new IMU-2 industrial mixed-use zoning district and specifying the permitted and conditional uses allowed in that district, renaming the current IMU industrial mixed-use zoning district to be known as the IMU-1 industrial mixed-use zoning district, and correcting, clarifying, and conforming related provisions. Sponsors, City Council President on behalf of the administration.
This has been assigned to the Land Use and Transportation Committee.
City Council Bill 18-0278, City Streets Opening Dillon Street. For the purpose of condemning and opening Dillon Street extending from the east side of CSX Transportation Incorporated Railroad easterly 201.24 feet to the west side of South Macon Street, as shown on Plat 307-A-21 in the Office of the Department of Transportation, and providing for a special effective date. Sponsors, City Council President on behalf of the administration.
This has been assigned to Housing and Urban Affairs Committee.
City Council Bill 18-0279, City Streets Closing Dillon Street. for the purpose of condemning and closing Dillon Street extending from the east side of CSX Transportation Incorporated Railroad easterly 201.24 feet to the west side of South Macon Street, as shown on Plat 307-A-21A in the Office of the Department of Transportation and providing for a special effective date. Sponsors, City Council President on behalf of the administration.
This has been assigned to Housing and Urban Affairs Committee.
City Council Bill 18-0280, sale of property, former bid of Dillon Street, for the purpose of authorizing the mayor and city council of Baltimore to sell at either public or private sale all its interest in a certain parcel of land known as the former bid of Dillon Street, extending from the east side of CSX Transportation Incorporated Railroad easterly 201.24 feet to the west side of South Macon Street and no longer needed for public use, and providing for a special effective date. Sponsors, City Council President on behalf of the administration.
This has been assigned to the Taxation, Finance, and Economic Development Committee.
City Council Bill 18-0281, City Streets Closing a portion of South Washington Street. For the purpose of condemning and closing a portion of South Washington Street extending from Alisana Street southerly 90 feet to the southernmost extremity of it, as shown on Plat 344-A-60A in the Office of the Department of Transportation and providing for a special effective date. Sponsors, City Council President on behalf of the administration.
Which one was that? This has been assigned to Housing and Urban Affairs Committee.
City Council Bill 18-0282, City Streets Opening a 10-foot alley bounded by North Howard Street, West 24th Street, May Street, and West 23rd Street. For the purpose of condemning and opening a 10-foot alley bounded by North Howard Street, West 24th Street, May Street, and West 23rd Street, as shown on Plat 105-B-50 in the Office of the Department of Transportation, and providing for a special effective date. Sponsors, City Council President on behalf of the administration.
This has been assigned to the Housing and Urban Affairs Committee.
City Council Bill 18-0283, City Streets Closing a 10-foot alley bounded by North Howard Street, West 24th Street, May Street, and West 23rd Street. For the purpose of condemning and closing a 10-foot alley bounded by North Howard Street, West 24th Street, May Street, and West 23rd Street, as shown on Plat 105-B-50A in the Office of the Department of Transportation, and providing for a special effective date. Sponsors, City Council President on behalf of the administration.
This has been assigned to the Housing and Urban Affairs Committee.
City Council Bill 18-0284, sale of property, former bid of a 10-foot alley bounded by North Howard Street, West 24th Street, May Street, and West 23rd Street. For the purpose of authorizing the mayor and city council of Baltimore to sell at either public or private sale all its interest in a certain parcel of land known as the former bid of a 10-foot alley bounded by North Howard Street, West 24th Street, May Street, and West 23rd Street, and no longer needed for public use, and providing for a special effective date. Sponsors, City Council President on behalf of the administration.
This has been assigned to the Taxation, Finance, and Economic Development Committee.
City Council Bill 18-0285, Police Ordinances repealing their prohibition on playing in the street. For the purpose of repealing the legal prohibition on playing on any street, alley, lane, or other public thoroughfare and conforming related provisions. Sponsors, Dorsey, Scott, Cohen, Burnett, Reisinger.
No, we got to go one at a time. Chair recognizes Councilman Dorsey.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. I grew up in Bel Air, Edison, directly across the street from Herring Run Park on Chesterfield, 2845 Chesterfield. My best friend was Mark Paquette. He lived directly across the alley from me on Pelham Avenue. And my cousin Chris lived a few blocks away on Woodstock. We spent our childhoods playing basketball on a milk crate rim nailed to a telephone pole in the alley between Chesterfield and Pelham. We spent our childhoods throwing a football in front of Mark's house on Pelham. We spent our childhoods throwing a tennis ball at the steps in front of my cousin's house, playing step ball. All of those things are unlawful to do. I am putting forth this bill here to take off the books the criminalization of these childhood behaviors that are common here in Baltimore City, particularly in neighborhoods that don't have front yards. I did these things and I lived directly across the street from Herring Run Park until I was 13 years old. It is perfectly normal for children to play in streets and on the sidewalks and in the alleys around where they live, and we should just not have things on our books that make this a crime. There are just far too many ways in which we legally or practically criminalize youth across the board. Where we can remove ways that we are doing them, I believe that we should. So thank you for the support on this bill, Mr. Council President.
This has been assigned to the Land Use and Transportation Committee.
City Council Bill 18-0286, Transit and Traffic Speed Limits. For the purpose of establishing the general maximum speed limit for various types of roadways in the city, creating a process for altering the general maximum speed limits for specific roadways, and generally relating to maximum speed limits. Sponsors Dorsey, Clark, Henry, Middleton, Scott, Burnett, Cohen, Pinkett, Sneed, Reisinger.
Chair recognizes Councilman Dorsey.
Thank you again, Mr. Council President. This is a bill very similar to one that has passed in other cities across the country where they're seeing improved driver behavior because of the reduction in posted speed limits. Many here will already be aware that a couple of weeks ago a report came out that ranked Baltimore City as 200 out of 200 for worst drivers in the U.S. About the same time, a report also came out that said that shows that there is a correlation between simply reducing posted speed limits and getting drivers to actually drive slower. That it's not even necessarily about enforcing those speed limits, but actually just posting lower speed limits gets drivers moving a little slower. Baltimore City has the highest auto insurance rates in the region. This is significantly to do with the number of crashes that happen here in Baltimore City. Our crash rate is 370% the rate of the rest of the state of Maryland. This is impacting residents of Baltimore City in their pocketbooks. This is impacting the quality of life for people in Baltimore City, where we have created an inhospitable environment to be a pedestrian or even be a driver in. I hardly think that we can expect to grow our city as long as such an environment, such conditions persist. And so this is about safety, this is about prosperity, this is about growth, and this is about doing something that we know works in other places. This has happened in New York, Boston, Portland, Seattle. One of the things that I think is notable is that last year's report for worst drivers had us in the 199 position. We were passed by Boston at the time. They were in the dead last position. Since then, they have reduced their posted speed limits, and they have moved up in the ranking from 200 to 199, while we have fell that one consequential position. So I am really thankful for the co-sponsors on this bill and to have the opportunity to introduce this bill tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. This has been assigned to the Land Use and Transportation Committee.
City Council Bill 18-0287, Zoning Conditional Use Conversion of a Single-Family Dwelling Unit to 3 dwelling units in the R8 Zoning District, variances 1235 West Lafayette Avenue. For the purpose of permitting, subject to certain conditions, the conversion of a single-family dwelling unit to 3 dwelling units in the R8 Zoning District on the property known as 1235 West Lafayette Avenue, Block 0090, Lot 021, as outlined in red on the accompanying plat, and granting variances from certain bulk, lot area, gross floor area per unit type, and off-street parking regulations. Sponsors Bullock.
Chair recognizes. Okay. This has been assigned to the Land Use and Transportation Committee.
City Council Bill 18-0288, York Corridor Business Improvement District Establishment. For the purpose of creating a community benefits district to be known as the York Corridor Business Improvement District, specifying the boundaries of the district, creating an authority, and providing for its rights, duties, and powers, providing for the selection and composition of the authority's board of directors, providing for an administrator for the authority, mandating the financial responsibilities of the authority and the city in conjunction with the operation of the district, providing for the assessment, collection, and enforcement of a supplemental tax to be collected by and for the authority, specifying the city's role in maintaining and enhancing existing services, encouraging the creation of partnerships among the authority, the city, the state, the federal government, and property owners not subject to the supplemental tax, designating the Board of Estimates as the agency charged with reviewing and approving various matters relating to the district and the authority, providing for the renewal, expiration, termination, and approval of the district and the authority, providing for a special effective date, and generally relating to the existence, operation, and control of the York Corridor Business Improvement District and Authority.
Chair recognizes.
Sponsors Henry, President Young.
Chair recognizes Councilman Henry.
Thank you, Mr. President. For a number of years now, many of the stakeholders for the York Corridor have come together under the banner of the York Corridor Collective, specifically to examine ways that we can revitalize York Road to the benefit of not just the property owners and store owners and operators along York Road, but also the neighborhoods on both sides of the corridor. What we determined several years ago, after paying a number of land use and planning consultants some fundraised money, was that there was a whole plan of things that we can do to fix York Road. That plan has since been adopted by the city's own planning commission and is part of the city's master plan now. But the very first recommendation on their list was the establishment of a business improvement district. And they spoke at length about the importance of having a separate entity that would be responsible for managing the corridor and also to continue to work on implementing the rest of the recommendations on the list. In short, this effort has moved past the point where those of us who are each trying to give some of our time towards it on a quasi-volunteer level need to move it into the realm of making it somebody's job to make the York Road corridor better, stronger, safer, and cleaner. And so we have recruited an initial board of majority property owners. They're going to be meeting to examine the additional surcharge that's in the bill, and we hope that we can move forward with a speedy legislative process followed by approval by the property owners themselves, and get down to the business of making York Road better on a day-to-day basis. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. This has been assigned to the Housing and Urban Affairs Committee.
City Council Bill 18-0289, Plant Unit Development, Designation Mount Vernon Mill. For the purpose of repealing the existing development plan for the Mount Vernon Mill Plant Unit Development, approving a new development plan for the Mount Vernon Mill Plant Unit Development, and providing for a special effective date. Sponsors Clark, Pinkett.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Clark. Okay. This has been assigned to Land Use and Transportation Committee.
City Council Bill 18-0290, Zoning Conditional Use Residential Care Facility Variances 1208, 1210 through 1222, and 1224 through 1226 East Baltimore Street. For the purpose of permitting, subject to certain conditions, the establishment, maintenance, and operation of a residential care facility on the properties known as 1208, 1210 through 1222, and 1224 through 1226 East Baltimore Street, as outlined in red on the accompanying plan, and granting variances from certain bulk and yard regulations for rear yard and building height and from certain off-street parking regulations. Sponsors Stokes, President Young.
This has been assigned to the Land Use and Transportation Committee. Did you want to say something, Council?
President, I just wanted to, me and President Young, we were at the Helping Up Mission, who do some wonderful things with the men here in Baltimore City, throughout the city. And if you're familiar with the old Lenny's Corned Beef on Lombard Street, they have purchased the building, and they're going to open up a facility for the women and children to provide that service to them. And I think that's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move to suspend the appropriate rules so that a city council bill can be introduced from the floor.
Second by Councilman Bullock. All those in favor of suspending the rules to allow for introduction of this city council bill, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion carried. The rules are suspended, and the bill can be introduced and will be City Council Bill 18-0291.
City Council Bill 18-0291, Street Encroachment, 524 North Charles Street, Westminster House Apartments. For the purpose of permitting, subject to certain conditions, the construction and maintenance of a portion of a building projecting into the public right-of-way on the west side of the property known as 524 North Charles Street, and providing for a special effective date. Sponsors Costello.
Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a land use issue specific to the 11th District. In short, there's an existing pilot that was recently modified for this property. And oddly enough, as we would have it, in order to do a minor privilege, we're required to do an ordinance. Thank you, Mr. President.
This has been assigned to the Housing and Urban Affairs Committee. Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move to suspend the appropriate rules so that a city council bill can be introduced from the floor.
Second by Councilman Stokes. All those in favor of suspending the rules to allow for introduction of this city council bill, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion carried. The rules are suspended, and the bill can be introduced and will be City Council Bill 18-0292.
City Council Bill 18-0292 Urban Renewal Market Center Amendment. For the purpose of amending the urban renewal plan for the Market Center to reauthorize the acquisition of properties within the project area and to extend the life of the plan, waiving certain contact and procedural requirements, making the provisions of this ordinance severable, providing for the application of this ordinance in conjunction with certain other ordinances, and providing for a special effective date. Sponsors Costello.
Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. This urban renewal plan for Market Center, which is the area on downtown's west side surrounding Lexington Market, is set to expire December 31st of 2018. This is a 5-year renewal, which would allow BDC to continue to have the ability to not only acquire but dispose of property in that catchment area. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. This has been assigned to the Housing and Urban Affairs Committee. Resolution introduced.
City Council Resolution 18-0097R, supporting and maintaining a 2020 census partnership. For the purpose of committing the City of Baltimore to partnering with the United States Census Bureau and the State of Maryland to support the goals and ideals for the 2020 census, to disseminate 2020 census information, to encourage all city residents to participate in events and initiatives that will raise their overall awareness of the 2020 census and increase participation, to provide census advocates to speak to city and community organizations, to support census takers as they help our city complete an accurate count, and to strive to achieve a complete and accurate count of all persons within our boundaries. Sponsors, City Council President on behalf of the administration, Henry, Middleton, Scott, Costello, Burnett, Cohen, Bullock, Dorsey, Stokes, Pinkett, Sneed, Clark, Reisinger, President Young.
And also Councilman Schleifer is the co-sponsor. Chair recognizes Council Vice President Middleton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move to suspend the rules for immediate adoption.
Second by Councilman Pinkett. All those in favor of suspending the rules for immediate adoption of this resolution, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion carried. The rules are suspended. Chair recognizes Vice President Middleton.
Mr. President, I move the resolution.
Second by Councilman Pinkett. All those in favor of adopting Resolution 18-0097R, say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion carried. This resolution is adopted.
City Council Resolution 18-0098R, National Recovery Month, September 2018. For the purpose of recognizing September as National Recovery Month and encouraging all Baltimore citizens suffering from mental and substance use disorders to cast off shame and seek treatment on their way to recovery. Sponsors Pinkett, Henry, President Young, Scott, Burnett, Dorsey, Bullock, Cohen, Middleton, Stokes, Sneed, Clark, Reisinger.
Please note that Councilman Schleifer is also a co-sponsor. Chair recognizes Councilman Pinkett.
President, unfortunately, we are all too familiar with the opioid epidemic that's ravaging our city and communities like Baltimore throughout the nation. In 2017 alone, nearly 800 of the approximate 2,000 opioid overdose deaths in the state of Maryland occurred in Baltimore City. Baltimore City recognizes September as National Recovery Month to spread the word that there is a way out of hopelessness and to recovery from mental and substance use disorders. This year's theme is Join the Voices for Recovery, Invest in Health, Home, Purpose, and Community. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules for immediate adoption.
Second by Councilman Scott. All those in favor of suspending the rules for immediate adoption of this resolution, say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion carried. The rules are suspended. Chair recognizes Councilman Pinkett.
I make a motion to move the resolution.
Second by Councilman Scott. All those in favor of adopting Resolution 18-0098R, say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion carried and this resolution is adopted.
City Council Resolution 18-0099R, a request for state legislation, auto insurance rates, fair rate calculation. For the purpose of requesting the Honorable Chair and members of the Baltimore City Senate and House delegations to the 2019 session of the Maryland General Assembly to introduce legislation to eliminate disparities in the amount charged for car insurance by removing location as a consideration in calculating the amount charged for auto insurance coverage. Sponsors Henry, Middleton, Clark, Bullock, Schleifer, President Young, Cohen, Stokes, Snead, Reisinger, Scott, Burnett, Dorsey, Pinkett.
Please note that Councilman Costello is a co-sponsor. Councilman Henry. Chair recognizes Councilman Henry.
Thank you, Mr. President. And thank you to all of my co-sponsors. It's a demonstration of the importance of this issue for Baltimoreans. There have been, already mentioned tonight, the incredible impact that auto insurance rates can have when the premiums are concentrated in just one jurisdiction among many. In the past, we have had surveys that have shown that the disparity between auto insurance rates in the city and the counties has actually been one of the leading indicators for why people have moved out of the city. Now, there are also other reasons. There are concerns about public safety and education, and those are issues that this council spends a great deal of time and energy working on. Auto insurance is something that can only be addressed by the state, and we would like very much for the new General Assembly delegation coming in the coming winter to take up this issue. If we did not allow automobile insurance companies to base their premiums on where people live, they would still have a lot of other data to work with. Other indicators to be used include the age of the driver, the length of the driving experience, the number of years licensed to operate a motor vehicle, driver primacy based on a proportionate use of each vehicle insured under the policy by individual drivers, average miles driven weekly, annually, or both, type of use such as business, farm, or recreational, vehicle characteristics, features, and options, daily or weekly commuting mileage, number of cars insured by the insurer, or number of licensed operators in the household. All of these are legitimate indicators for what the actual risk is. But to say that simply because I live in Baltimore City, my vehicle is at greater risk of causing an accident or being in an accident seems unfair, especially given the fact that, as one of my colleagues shared with us earlier today, according to the Baltimore City Police Department, a majority of traffic citations are actually given to people who do not live in Baltimore City. So the fact that a bunch of people who do not live in Baltimore City come here to have their accidents should not be blamed on those of us who live here all the time. I would like, since we have unanimous co-sponsorship, it doesn't seem that we're going to need to send this to a committee and have a lengthy discussion on it. So I would like to ask to suspend the rules and move for immediate adoption. Aye. Thank you, Mr. President. I move the resolution with a favorable report. Aye. Thank you.
City Council Resolution 18-0100R, request for federal action declaring police-related deaths of unarmed Black Americans a homeland security crisis. For the purpose of calling on President Trump to declare the deaths of unarmed Black Americans at the hands of the police in America a homeland security crisis, and further requesting that the President direct the Department of Justice and the Department of Homeland Security to invest resources into solving one of our nation's longstanding and unaddressed problems through either direct action or partnership with local and state governments. Sponsors Scott, Henry, Middleton, Burnett, Cohen, Dorsey, Bullock, Stokes, Snead, Clark, Reisinger.
Please note that Councilman Costello co-sponsor. Chair recognizes Councilman Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, members of the council, people of color comprise just 38.5% of the U.S. population, but 51.5% of all of the years of life lost in police-related deaths from 2015 to 2016 are people of color. And also to that point, African Americans died at a rate of 7.2 per million compared to a rate of 2.9 per million for white Americans in police-related deaths. It's with this undeniable fact, and also through the actions of and the statements of Trump and the Trump administration in saying that the death of unarmed people of color is not a national issue, is solely a local issue for the localities to handle, is why myself, along with all the members of the Young Elected Officials Network Black Caucus, which here on our council includes myself, Councilman Burnett, Councilwoman Snead, Councilman Bullock, are unified across the country in passing this very resolution to demand that the Trump administration take action nationally. This is a national crisis. It's not just happening in our cities, it's happening in our rural areas as well, and we can keep ignoring this crisis, and it will keep bubbling and keep fostering up, whether it's here in Baltimore or most recently in Dallas, Texas. We know that the Department of Justice has resources to deal with these kind of issues. We know they're spending millions and millions of dollars right now to separate people from their families, to go and hunt down people who are just trying to work every day to live the American dream. But when they're asked to deal with this issue that has been happening for centuries, they're silent. So it's with that, Mr. President, that I stand unified with my colleagues both here and in YO Black Caucus in asking for a suspension of rules so that we can immediately adopt this resolution.
All those in favor suspend, second by Councilman Burnett. All those in favor suspend the rules for me to adopt this resolution, say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion carried. The rules are suspended. Chair recognizes Councilman Scott.
Mr. President, I move the resolution.
Second by Councilman Burnett. All those in favor of adopting resolution 18-0100R, say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion carried. This resolution is adopted.
City Council Resolution 18-0101R, request for state action, require a rigorous pollution control study and stronger nitrogen oxides limits for the Will Abiter Baltimore incinerator. For the purpose of urging that the Maryland Department of the Environment, MDE, require a rigorous analysis relating to the installation of a new pollution control technology for nitrogen oxides, NOx, at the Will Abiter Baltimore incinerator, requesting that following the receipt of this analysis, MDE commence a second rulemaking process and set much stronger NOx pollution limits, and requesting that MDE share the analysis with the council as soon as possible after receiving it. Sponsors Clark, Henry, Middleton, Scott, Burnett, Cohen, Dorsey, Bullock, Snead, Reisinger.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Clark.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. Here's what this is about. Right now, the Wheelabrator incinerator on Russell Street is a major polluter of Baltimore City. It is already under MDE, Maryland Department of Environment, rulemaking to reduce its what they call ppms, which is amount per million of particulate of nitrogen oxygen going into emissions going into the air. So they have to be down to 145 ppm by 2020. They're in that process. Here's what happens. After that, Wheelabrator has to exhaustively test and report on how the effect of the 145 is affecting the nitrogen oxide emissions in the air. Then they have to turn that in to the Maryland Department of the Environment. This resolution's really about what happens next, because all that has to happen. What doesn't have to happen, but we want in this resolution, is for the Department of the Environment, MDE, to then send us copies of the reports, but more important, equally important, adopt rulemaking to further reduce to 45 ppm the nitrogen oxide emissions on Russell Street. That's what you would have to do, 45 ppm, if you were building a new incinerator. I hope no one in this listening audience is planning to, at least not in the Baltimore metropolitan area. But if someone somewhere were building a new one, it would have to be built for 45 ppms. To get down to 145 still leads 900 million tons. I hope I said that right. Yeah. 900 tons still, no. That's not right, million. I don't know, but it's an awful lot left over. And so, Mr. President, I would like to move to suspend the rules to allow immediate adoption of this resolution.
Second by Councilman Reisinger. All those in favor of suspend the rules for immediate adoption of this resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion carried. The rules are suspended. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Clark.
Mr. President, I'd like to move adoption and immediate adoption of this resolution so we can get it to MDA real fast.
Second by Councilman Reisinger. All those in favor of adopting resolution 18-0101R, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion carried. This resolution is adopted.
Thank you.
City Council Resolution 18-0102R, Request for Federal Action, Farm Bill Conference Committee, rejection of the 2018 Farm Bills Amendment preempting local regulation of pesticides. For the purpose of calling on members of the United States House of Representatives and United States Senate Farm Bill Conference Committee to reject the 2018 Farm Bills Amendment to Section 24A of the Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Rodenticide Act that preempts localities' rights to regulate pesticides in their communities. Sponsors Clark, Henry, Burnett, Cohen, Dorsey, Bullock, Pinkett, Middleton, Sneed, Reisinger.
Chair recognizes, please note Councilman Stokes, co-sponsor. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Clark.
Thank you. Mr. President, members of the council, I'm still trying to figure out that 900-ton thing. Right now, there is a conference committee in the Congress of the United States of America that is getting ready to approve a bill. It has in it an amendment that says that local jurisdictions, that would be us, are not allowed, we're preempted from making any restrictions or laws about pesticides. Now, we have the right to do that under state law now, but we would be taken out of that right by the feds down in D.C. So this is a resolution that says, leave us alone, let us retain the right to legislate about such, I'm sorry. Whoa. Let us continue to be able to control pesticides. Let me point out that the Parks Department, Rec and Parks, they don't allow pesticides being used on their public grounds and parks, and neither does the Department of Public Works around our water reservoirs in various locations. They must know something. We will soon learn in this environment, and we want to have the right to take action when we do. So I would like to move to suspend the rules to permit immediate adoption.
Second by Councilman Cohen. All those in favor of suspending the rules for immediate adoption of this resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion carried. The rules are suspended. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Clark.
Mr. President, members of the council, move to adopt.
Second by Councilman Cohen. All those in favor of adopting resolution 18-0102R, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion carried. This resolution is adopted.
City Council Resolution 18-0103R, informational hearing, the decline of the small business lending in Baltimore. For the purpose of inviting representatives from banking institutions doing business in Baltimore, representatives from the Johns Hopkins University's 21st Century Cities Initiative, and other representatives from the local academic community, community leaders, the president and CEO of the Baltimore Development Corporation, and other city officials responsible for economic development to appear before the City Council to explain the decline in small business lending in Baltimore and to discuss ways in which Baltimore can reverse this trend. Sponsors Clark, Henry, President Young, Middleton, Scott, Burnett, Cohen, Dorsey, Pinkett, Stokes, Sneed, Reisinger, Bullock.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Clark.
I don't have to suspend any rules. Mr. President and members of the council, this resolution has been referred to the Taxation, Finance, and Economic Development Committee, where it will get a great hearing. There is a report by, a really excellent report by Johns Hopkins 21st Century Initiative Group. It's called Financing Baltimore's Growth, Strengthening Lending to Small Businesses. The reason the report says let's do something about lending to small businesses is because the amount of our local banks lending to small businesses has radically decreased. I know we had a recession. I'm not talking about that. I mean, we recovered, right? At least we recovered for a while, we hope. And, but the lending to small businesses didn't. So basically, a small business in their report is a business that has revenues of less than $1 million a year, and who wants a loan of less than $1 million a year. We're talking small businesses. They're exactly the kind we like the best because they're the largest employers in the nation, and they help local businesses be viable. So I hope when we get to committee, you will all listen to the reports, and help us to talk to the banks that we invite and ask them to up the ante again the way they did in the old days, because we need it more than ever. Thank you.
Thank you. This has been assigned to the Taxation, Finance, and Economic Development Committee.
City Council Bill 18-0, City Council Resolution 18-0104R, informational hearing, subsidies to Baltimore City's hospitality and tourism industry now and in the future. For the purpose of inviting the President and CEO of Visit Baltimore, the President and CEO of the Baltimore Development Corporation, the Director of the Baltimore City Department of Finance, the Director of the Mayor's Office of Employment Development, representatives of the Baltimore and tourism industry, and representatives of the Baltimore labor community to appear before the City Council to discuss the subsidies that the City of Baltimore has provided to the hospitality and tourism industry, as well as best methods for ensuring that any future subsidies to the hospitality and tourism industry are conditioned upon the recipient's commitment to create quality jobs. Sponsors: Clark, Henry, President Young, Middleton, Scott, Burnett, Cohen, Bullock, Sneed, Reisinger, Dorsey, Pinkett.
Please note Councilman Stokes is co-sponsor. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Clark.
Mr. President and members of the council, this is also referred to Tax, Finance, and Economic Development to be heard. And it will be announced, I believe, next time we have a council meeting, but a date has been set. So basically, this is a request from Unite Here. We're working with Unite Here, a lot of us on this council, to get decent wages, health benefits, and full-time jobs for the employees of the Marriott, and by the way, of every other hotel, especially those that have received subsidies in Baltimore City. The issue about subsidies for hotel and hospitality developments is that it should be connected to the welfare of people who go to work in places we've subsidized to build. That's true of the Marriott, and it's true of many of the hotels in this city. We're glad to have them. We'd love to spend the night if we could afford it. But we invested in all this hospitality and it's not a hospital, all this hospitality development, because we were losing jobs in manufacturing in Baltimore City. We wanted to replace them as well as we could. We knew these jobs would never pay what Beth Steel and other manufacturing centers do. But we knew that we had to create jobs that could at least let a family support themselves. As our campaign says, one job should be enough. And so, we want to take a look at how the subsidies work. We want to change the way they work so that never again will we have to fight the way we do, place by place by place, to get decent jobs, health benefits, full-time work, and to fulfill the reason we have the Inner Harbor to begin with. Thank you.
This has been assigned to, as the councilwoman so eloquently stated, to the Taxation, Finance, and Economic Development Committee. Consent calendar. You can find the consent calendar, Section A, at the back of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar? Motion by Councilman Scott, second by Councilman Costello. All those in favor of approving the consent calendar say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion carried and this calendar is approved. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Clark.
Before I make my motion for...
You have to talk in the mic, Councilwoman.
Yes. Before I make a motion for floor permission, I'd like to just read what this is about. So, and you have a copy on your desk, but we have an audience. At least Joe, my husband, usually watches. But he always tells me how well everybody else did. And he does. We're married, what's the difference? So, we're here tonight. Councilman Cohen and I especially talked together and said, you know, these young people have done such a great job and accomplished so much, we should celebrate it. So this is our celebration. SOMOS, which means Students Organizing a Multicultural Open Society, SOMOS, is based at Baltimore City College, comprised mainly of Latino family students dedicated to social justice for all students who face obstacles to opportunities to realize their boundless potential for success. Today, we recognize SOMOS students and their faculty advisors for one of many, many SOMOS accomplishments, namely beginning a fair and intensive process for English learners, that's a term in the school system, in the Baltimore City Public Schools to successfully compete for enrollment at entry criteria high schools, for which English mastery has too often closed the door. Special thanks to SOMOS advisors, entry criteria principals, like City College, like they gotta you can't just go there, they've gotta let you in. What they've done is the school system's ESOL office and SOMOS students have gotten together to outreach to families, to do tours, to involve the principals in recruitment, and to just work one-on-one with a lot of EL students, English learner students, who otherwise have the potential and the credentials, but haven't been going to our entry schools. In its SOMOS short-term phase right now, we celebrate increased English learner enrollments already and look forward to a growing system of peer-to-peer mentoring and recruitment to benefit English learning students, our entry criteria high schools themselves, and all of Baltimore City. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to allow us to bring onto the floor of the council representatives of SOMOS so that we can honor and present them with resolutions.
Second by Councilman Cohen. All those in favor of extending floor privilege to the special guest from SOMOS, say aye. All opposed,
Aye.
nay.
Aye.
The motion carries, and your guest may take the floor.
Thank you. Okay, we have resolutions. wait a minute, let's say something.
Sure. Again, thank you to the young people, to their educators. They led a heroic effort to get more of our English language learners admitted into entry-level schools. They've been working diligently with the school system, Councilwoman Clark, myself, and this year there were 24 young people who, because of what essentially amounted to an error in the school system's way it tracked whether young people would be admitted or not, were rejected from entry-level schools, and because of the work of these guys and women, were now accepted into those schools. So this is an example of students leading the charge to change policy, and on behalf of the City Council, we're just incredibly grateful for the work that you all have done. Thank you.
They're all the same. This is only the beginning. You know, it's tough to go someplace if you're the onlyest one, as somebody used to say. And now what's happening is that it's becoming a comfortable experience because peers have worked with peers. And we expect to see a lot more of that in the years to come. Thank you. So,
sure. The City Council of Baltimore resolution, be it hereby known to all, the City Council of Baltimore offers its sincerest congratulations to students organizing a multicultural open society in recognition of leadership overcoming obstacles to the high school choice process for English learners. The entire membership extends best wishes on this memorial occasion and directs this resolution to be presented on this, the 17th day of September 2018. Congratulations.
So say your name and we'll hand you one.
My name is Carmen Santos.
Thank you. Oh, I can't go any further, can I? What's your name? Step up.
My name's Vanessa Sipaibun.
You are?
I'm Scarlett Gutierrez Aleman.
Good work. Uh-oh. Oh.
Carolina Beretta.
Yeah, walk around her because it was basketball.
I'm Connie Sanabria. I'm one of the advisors.
Thank you.
My name is Edwin Perez. I'm one of the advisors.
Thank you.
I'm Franca Mueller-Pass, one of the advisors, and we're all city teachers and city students.
Of course, the best.
City forever.
City forever. Oops. Thank you. Thank you, lady. Oh, can we get a picture? Oh, Mr. Perez, could you come down? You want to come and join us? Anybody else want to join? Is that okay? Anyone else? Huh? Okay, let's get the president down here. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Councilman Pinkett.
Mr. President, I move to extend floor privileges to my special guests from the No Boundaries Coalition.
Second by Councilman Scott. All those in favor of extending floor privileges to the guests of our councilman, say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion carried. Your guests may take the floor.
There's a passage of scripture that reads, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God." And it's in that spirit that I'm honored to recognize the No Boundaries Coalition as the recipient of the 2018 Pax Christi International Peace Award. Established in 1988, the Pax Christi International Peace Award is funded by the Cardinal Bernardus Alfrink Peace Fund. This award honors contemporary individuals and organizations that make a stand for peace, justice, and nonviolence in different parts of the world. This is the 30th year that the award has been presented, and only the second time it has been given to a recipient in the United States. We should applaud just for that. The No Boundaries Coalition was presented with this award on this past Saturday at the historic Baltimore Basilica. The work of the No Boundaries Coalition is no secret to the residents of West Baltimore. The organization is known for its consistent efforts in the field of civic and community engagement, food access, voter registration, and especially for their work around police reform and constitutional policing, which was so instrumental in establishing the current DOJ consent decree. So I want to thank you, Ray, and the entire board and staff of No Boundaries for your continued advocacy for our community, and congratulations for this distinguished award. Thank you. And so the City Council of Baltimore resolution, be it hereby known to all that the City Council of Baltimore offers its sincerest congratulations to No Boundaries Coalition in recognition of receiving the 2018 Pax Christi International Peace Award. The entire membership extends best wishes on this memorable occasion and directs this resolution be presented on the 17th day of September 2018. Council President Bernard C. Jack Young, Councilman Leon Pinkett. And Council President, if it's okay, for someone from No Boundaries, just to make a quick statement on behalf of receiving this, this honor.
Go ahead. Sure.
I want to thank you, Councilman Pinkett, and the entire City Council for this recognition. So the No Boundaries Coalition is a resident-led advocacy organization, and this award was a recognition of willingness to collaborate to create a better voice. So in 21217, our communities are diverse, just like this room. You can go from $1 million brownstones to the project. If we're ever going to move forward in these efforts in Baltimore City, we have to resolve to sit at the table and work together. The conflict can only take us so far, and sooner or later we have to actually go to progress to actual change this city. Thank you.
I said a 12, 13. Let's give them another hand. I would also like to take a moment to acknowledge our guests from Greater Baltimore Committee Leadership Program. I had the chance to meet with them this afternoon along with some of my other colleagues. They are an impressive group. Damian Cooper from our staff and Councilman John Bullock are part of this year's cohort. Thank you all for joining us tonight at our City Council meeting. John, would you like to say something?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. President. I'm happy to see some of our classmates who came out here today. The leadership program has been around for about 35 years now, and we have several members of the council who are alums, including Councilman Bill Henry, Councilman Leon Pinkett, and myself. And so it's a great way in terms of trying to break down some of the barriers that have existed in Baltimore City. So we had no boundaries here, but thinking about collecting information and knowledge and building relationships across the business community, elected officials, and nonprofits. So thank you all for being here. Thank you, Council President. Thank you for our colleagues who were able to talk with the group today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll now move the bills on second reader. Chair recognizes Councilman Scott.
Mr. President, I make a motion to move for short titles for the remainder of the meeting.
Second by Councilman Henry. All those in favor of a short title for the remainder of the hearing, say aye. All opposed, nay. The motion carried. Housing and Urban Affairs Committee.
City Council Bill 18-0241, Urban Renewal, Jewett Heights Amendment.
Chair recognizes Councilman Bullock.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee met on September 13th, 2018 and considered 3 bills. We'll be moving all 3 favorable with amendments. There is a technical amendment on your desks, and I move the amendment favorable.
Second by Councilman Pinkett. All those in favor of approving these amendments, say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion to approve the bill is amended. Chair recognizes Councilman Bullock.
Mr. President, I move the bill favorably as amended.
Second by Councilman Costello. All those in favor of approving this bill, say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion is approved. This bill moves to third reader.
City Council Bill 18-0244, Urban Renewal, Oliver Amendment.
Chair recognizes Councilman Bullock.
Thank you, Mr. President. There is a technical amendment on your desks, and I move the amendment favorable.
Second by Councilman Stokes. All those in favor of approving these amendments, say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion to approve this bill is amended. Chair recognizes Councilman Bullock.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill favorably as amended.
Second by Councilman Stokes. All those in favor of approving this bill, say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion to approve this bill moves to third reader.
City Council Bill 18-0245, Urban Renewal, Park Heights Amendment.
Chair recognizes Councilman Bullock.
Thank you, Mr. President. There is a technical amendment on your desks, and I move the amendment favorable.
Second by Vice President Middleton. All those in favor of approving these amendments, say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion to approve the bill is amended. Chair recognizes Councilman Bullock.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill favorably as amended.
Second by Vice President Middleton. All those in favor of approving this bill, say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion to approve this bill moves to third reader. Judiciary and Legislative Investigation Committee.
City Council Bill 18-0230, Ethics Code, Transparency and Lobbying Act.
Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. We held a hearing on this bill. There are amendments on my colleague's desk. At this time, I move the amendments.
Second by Councilman Cohen. All those in favor of approving the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion to approve the bill is amended. Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill favorably as amended.
Second by Councilman Cohen. All those in favor of approving this bill, say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion to approve this bill moves to third reader. Land Use and Transportation Committee.
City Council Bill 18-0255, rezoning certain properties in the Old Goucher community.
Chair recognizes Councilman Reisinger.
Mr. President, there's no amendments to this bill. I move the bill favorable.
Second by Councilman Stokes. All those in favor of approving this bill, say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion is approved. This bill moves to third reader.
City Council Bill 18-0270, Plant Unit Development, Designation 5601 Eastern Avenue.
Chair recognizes Councilman Reisinger.
Mr. President, I move the finding of facts.
Second by Councilman Cohen. All those in favor of approving the finding of facts, say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion to approve the finding of facts are adopted. Chair recognizes Councilman Reisinger.
Mr. President, there's a number of amendments. I move the amendments.
Second by Councilman Cohen. All those in favor of approving these amendments, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion to approve the bill is amended. Chair recognizes Councilman Reisinger.
Mr. President, I move the bill favorable as amended.
Second by Councilman Cohen. All those in favor of approving this bill, say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion to approve this bill moves to third reader.
Mr. President.
Chair recognizes Councilman Reisinger.
Mr. President, I move to invoke Council Rule 12-1 to move City Council Bill 18-0270 to third reader at the same meeting.
Second by Councilman Cohen. We have to do a roll call vote.
President Young?
Yes.
President Young, yes. Councilman Cohen? Councilman Cohen, yes. Councilman Scott? Councilman Scott, yes. Councilman Dorsey? Councilman Dorsey, yes. Councilman Henry? Councilman Henry, yes. Councilman Schleifer? Councilman Schleifer, yes. Councilwoman Middleton? Councilwoman Middleton, yes. Councilman Pinkett? Councilman Pinkett, yes. Councilman Burnett? Councilman Burnett, yes. Councilman Bullock? Councilman Bullock, yes. Councilman Reisinger? Councilman Reisinger, yes. Councilman Costello? Councilman Costello, yes. Councilman Stokes? Councilman Stokes, yes. Councilwoman Sneed? Councilwoman Sneed, yes. Councilwoman Clark? Councilwoman Clark, yes.
The ayes have it. The motion carries, and Council Bill 18-0270 is on third reader. Third reader requiring invocation of Rule 12-1 for same-day advancement.
City Council Bill 18-0270, Plant Unit Development, Designation 5601 Eastern Avenue. President Young, Cohen, Scott, Dorsey, Henry, Schleifer, Middleton, Pinkett, Burnett, Bullock, Reisinger, Costello, Stokes, Sneed, Clark.
This bill is approved. Committee announcements. Chair recognizes Councilman Stokes. You raised your hand real quick, didn't you?
Yes, sir. The Executive Appointments Committee will hold a hearing on Wednesday, November the 7th, 2018, beginning at 10 a.m. to view the following nominations for Compensation Committee for elected officials: Patrick Lundberg, Alexander Smith, Thurman Zollicoffer, Vernon Andrew Reed, Jr., Clara Siegel, Kenneth Taylor, Sr., and Charles Tilden.
Chair recognizes Councilman Bullock.
Thank you, Mr. President. On Tuesday, October 9th, the Housing Urban Affairs Committee will be having hearing several bills, the first of which is City Council Bill 180242, Ordinance Urban Renewal Broadway East Amendment, and that will be at 3:30 p.m. That'll be followed at 3:35 p.m. by City Council Bill 180227, Ordinance Urban Renewal Poppleton Amendment. Same day, followed at 3:40 p.m., it will be City Council Bill 18-0246, Ordinance Urban Renewal Coldstream Homestead Montebello Amendment. 3:45 p.m. on October 9th will be City Council Bill 180247, Ordinance Urban Renewal Johnson Square Amendment. Followed at 3:50 p.m. by City Council Bill 180248, Ordinance Urban Renewal Middle East Amendment. Followed at 3:55 p.m. by City Council Bill 180252, Ordinance Urban Renewal York Woodburn Business Area Amendment. And on Tuesday, October 23rd at 2 p.m., the Housing Urban Affairs Committee will be hearing City Council Bill 180174, Ordinance City Streets Closing Brunt Court, certain alleys bounded by Robert Street, Division Street, Wilson Street, and Brunt Street. Followed at 2:05 p.m. by City Council Bill 180175, Ordinance City Streets Closing all streets and alleys bounded by East Biddle Street, Greenmount Avenue, East Chase, and Fallsway. Followed at 2:10 p.m. By City Council Bill 180198, Ordinance City Streets Closing Denmore Avenue and certain alleys lying between West Garrison, Park Heights Avenue, Woodland Avenue, and Edgemere Avenue. And finally followed at 2:15 p.m. by City Council Bill 180227, which is Ordinance City Streets Closing Wilcox Street and 5 alleys bounded by East Chase Street, Ensor Street, East Eager Street, and Valley Street. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Reisinger.
Mr. President, the Land Use and Transportation Committee will hold a work session for Bill 17-0102, which is the Complete Street Bill, which was scheduled for September 19th, is being rescheduled to be held on September 26th, beginning at 5 p.m. And this work session will be televised. The committee will hold a hearing on Bill 18-0257 on October 17th at 1 p.m. in the council chambers. This is zoning conditional use conversion of a single-family dwelling unit to 4 dwelling units in the R8 zoning district with variances located at 310 East Landville Street. The committee will hold a hearing on Bill 18-0258 on October 17th at 1:05 p.m. in the council chambers. This is a zoning, it's a conditional use conversion of a single-family dwelling unit to a 2 dwelling units in the R8 zoning district with variances located at 417 East Fayette Street. The committee will hold a public hearing for Bill 18-0203, which was scheduled for which will be scheduled for 9/26, is being rescheduled to October 17th at 1:10 p.m. in the City Council chambers at City Hall. This is a zoning conditional use conversion of a single-family dwelling unit to a 3 dwelling unit in the R7 zoning district with variances located at 301 East 28th Street. Again, Mr. President, I just want to restate that this will be rescheduled for October the 17th at 1 p.m. in the council chambers. The committee will hold a hearing on Bill 18-0273, October 24th at 1 p.m. in the council chambers. This is repeal of Ordinance 11-562, located at 6709 Pulaski Highway, Plan Unit Development. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Budget and Appropriations Committee will hold a hearing on Wednesday, October 10th, 2018 at 5:05 p.m. on Resolution 18-0091R. This is a budget oversight hearing for Baltimore City Police Department, and Chairman Scott will soon be announcing the companion to that. The Judiciary and Legislative Investigations Committee will hold a hearing on Bill 18-0275 on Tuesday, September 18th at 12 noon. This is unidentifiable vehicles for immediate towing at the request of Councilman Dorsey. Judiciary and Legislative Investigations Committee will hold a hearing on Bill 18-0232 on Tuesday, October 9th at 10 a.m. in Chambers. This is diaper changing amenity at the request of Councilman Schleifer. And the Biennial Audits Oversight Commission will hold a hearing on Wednesday, September 19th at 5 p.m. That will be televised on cable channel 25. Mr. President, you, Councilman Henry, Councilman Pinkett, and I are on that, and just wanted to invite everyone from the council to attend if you so wish. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Vice President Middleton.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Taxation, Finance, and Economic Development Committee will hear 4 bills on Thursday, October 4th, 2018. The first one at 10 a.m. here in Council Chambers is Bill number 18-0197. It's a sale of property, 1215 West Lafayette Avenue, Block 090 of Lot 011A. The next bill, 18-0226, will be heard at 10:05 here in Council Chambers. The sale of property, the former beds of Eastbourne Avenue and a portion of Savage Street. The next bill, number 18-0249, at 10:10 on October 4th in Council Chambers, is the sale of property 222 West Reed Street. And lastly, bill number 18-0250, Thursday, October 4th, 10:15 a.m. here in Council Chambers, sale of property 2200 St. Clair Lane. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, on October the 10th at 5 p.m. here in the Council Chambers, the Public Safety Committee will hold a hearing for 18-0092R, monthly council staff meetings for the Baltimore City Police Department. It's the companion to what the Budget Chair, Councilman Costello, just announced. On October the 16th at 4 p.m. here in the Du Bois Chambers, the Council Public Safety Committee will have a legislative oversight at the request of the Council President. We will hold a hearing on the Baltimore Community Support Program surveillance plane at 4:05 on the same day. The Council Public Safety Committee will have a hearing for City Council Resolution 17-0031R, Baltimore Crime Gun Intelligence Center. That was a resolution introduced by myself. And at 4:10 p.m. that day, here in the Du Bois Chambers, we will reconvene the hearing for 17-0047R from July the 3rd, calling for an expansive auxiliary police program in Baltimore and the expanded use of telephone and online crime reporting in Baltimore, as we learned that the program should be starting very shortly from the police department in our hearing last week. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Scott. Chair recognizes Councilman Cohen. Was you finished, Councilman Scott? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. On Wednesday, November 14th, 2018, the Education Youth Committee will hold a hearing at 5 p.m. at the Dorothy M. Height School, located at 2011 Linden Ave in Baltimore, to investigate the impact of concentrated poverty on our schools. As many folks know, the Kirwan Commission has been meeting to reevaluate the Fair Student Funding formula every 15 years. We as a state re-examine how we fund our schools. Their report is being issued and worked on as we speak. It is incredibly important, given the level of concentrated poverty in Baltimore, that we get a good report and that we implement it fully. So the school system has asked us to hold this hearing, and I invite folks that are not on the committee as well to get an update from the Kerwin Commission on the work that they've been doing, as well as Dr. Santelices, about what we are going to need heading into the next General Assembly, and also their asks for local share, the local municipalities. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Snead.
Thank you. The Labor Committee will actually hold a hearing for Bill number 18-0276 on Wednesday, October the 17th, in reference to the lactation accommodations in the workplace bill, for the purpose of requiring certain employees to provide certain lactation accommodations, including lactation breaks and locations.
Thank you. Regular announcements. I want to first welcome Amy Rapole. Did I say that right? And Tony DeFranco, who are our new legislative people to work up in legislative reference. Would you please stand? I told them they're a big part of the family now. Okay. We have two birthdays. September the 19th, Councilman Cohen. Is the choir ready to sing happy birthday? If the man can do it, y'all can do it too. But anyway, and Councilman Bullock, October the 6th. Happy birthday to all of y'all. I see that the choir is not ready to perform yet. Well, look, I just got a little tweet about Lake Clifton's gym. Y'all know they moving to a new school, very prominent athletic program, and some of the students are complaining about the size of the gym. Now, when I went all over the city, we went to all these middle schools, you know, and they have these large gyms. I think it's a disservice to Lake Clifton that they chose not to build them a world-class gym like they did for the elementary and middle schools. So I'm asking the chair of the Education Committee if you can look into that and include me in that meeting, because I don't think that's right for a school that draws so much to their basketball games and they're winning championship after championship, to not have a gym that's conducive to the size of the crowds that they bring to those games, I think is ludicrous. Chair recognizes Councilman Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I rise and solemnly request that Vice President Middleton honor a moment of silence for the now 208 homicide victims that we've lost this year in Baltimore and their families, in addition to all of those that we continue to lose daily to the opioid crisis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chair recognizes Councilman Henry. I'll be back on this side.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also have a name to add to the Vice President's list, but it is not a name from this year. Some of you may remember that 10 years ago, this Thursday, September 20th, was the untimely death of former Councilman Kenneth N. Harris, Sr. So I've asked each year for a moment of silence on the anniversary of that. But this year, we're going to be doing a little bit more. We're going to be having a celebration and commemoration of his life. Tomorrow afternoon at 5 p.m., we will be dedicating the Kenneth N. Harris Sr. Community Center at 1235 Sherwood. It's the former Leith Walk Recreation Center, and we'll have a brief series of remarks by those who have served with Ken, including Council President Bernard Young and Mayor Catherine Pugh. All of you are invited. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Dorsey. Anybody else over there? Okay, then we'll go over here.
Thank you, Mr. Council President.
Councilman Bullock.
I continue to want to promote arts and cultural activities in Baltimore City. Not to step over in anybody else's district, but I am, really thankful to see the development of a Black Arts and Entertainment District initiative happening. It was great to head over to Jubilee Arts recently to support that. Not to mention being there the night before for the opening of a show by Latoya Peoples of her work inside of Jubilee Arts. I saw a great play this weekend that I want to invite everybody to come out to see. Putin on Ice. That's not the real title of this play. That's all, actually, the title. At the Single Carrot Theater, it's a co-production of Single Carrot and Acme Corporation. Acme Corporation being co-led by Lola Pearson, who has consistently been lauded as best playwright in Baltimore City, and Acme Corporation over and over again, best play, things like that. So go out and see Putin on Ice. That's not the real title of this show. Several months ago, you heard me talking kind of again and again about an initiative I created in my district called Artist District, where we provided grants to 4 3rd District City Council artists. And on Sunday, September 30th, we will be hearing reports out to our community in the 3rd District and from anybody else that, to anybody else that wants to come at the Strand Theater. Sunday, September 30th, we're going to hear from our 4 grants recipients at 6 p.m. All are welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Council Vice President Middleton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple of congratulations, and then I also have some moment of silence names. A shout out to Cornerstone Church of Christ in Park Heights on Park Heights Avenue. They're getting ready to celebrate their 60-year celebration there in Park Heights. They just had a celebration with the pastor, Reginald T. Johnson, of 24 years serving the community and members there at that church. And also wanted to give a shout out to Councilman Burnett and the state and federal partners of his team and city partners that worked with me to host a very successful, I guess the first of many human trafficking awareness events. The one in the 6th District was held at Wayland Baptist, so I know that Councilman Burnett is going to be going and contacting other council members to have more of those awareness events in their district. And also just a quick update on the Women's Commission. We're going to have another general body meeting on September 26th, and I know that the appointments for the members of the commission are in the making. I think a hearing is coming up soon in executive appointments for those appointments. But I just wanted everyone to remember that this started with a meeting of at least 100 women, and I can still say that those 100 women are still together. Those 9 committees were formed. From those 9 committees, they picked a chair and co-chair, and they have been meeting individually on their own throughout the city in various places to put together their individual vision and mission statements of those 9 different committee topics. So there is more to come with that as we move forward. So excited about the movement of the Women's Commission, and also a moment of silence for Deacon Oscar Cobb. Was a very prominent activist in Park Heights. He lived in Park Heights for 50 years, and he suddenly passed away. Also, another community activist and member of the Windsor Hills community, James Randall Carroll Jr., passed away, and also the past master of King David Lodge 18, Richard V. Johnson, passed away, and Apostle Anthony Fliggins Sr., which was a pastor of Doorway Church of God. He was a street evangelist, outreach person, and he was the father of Pastor Wiggins, I think in a church in Councilwoman Sneed's district. So a moment of silence for him. And also, I think Mary Pat Clark is going to probably say a few words about David Frost, Doug Frost. Okay, thank you.
All right, Chair Grass, Councilman Burnett, you did all of the moments of silence before I got around to all the council members. All right. No, I said you did that before I allowed the rest of them to speak. Go ahead. So we don't have to do it again. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. As you all know, we've had a number of disasters in West Baltimore with flooding on Frederick Avenue and Forest Park Avenue. I think Alameda got hit pretty hard, the waterfront, and prayers up for the folks in North Carolina who've experienced a lot of devastation with this latest storm. It's important to get our constituents prepared for disasters. So there's a collaboration happening with the Planning Department, the Mayor's Office of Emergency Management, Maryland Insurance Administration, and the Maryland Department of Environment to do preparedness workshops all over the city of Baltimore. They actually kicked off. September is Disaster Preparedness Month. And so the remaining events, September 19th from 7 to 8:30 at the Northeast District Community Meeting, September 20th at the Council President's Senior Symposium. From 8:30 to 1:30, there'll be a workshop there, so please push our seniors to participate in that, especially because they can be particularly vulnerable during these times of crisis. September 20th, 6 to 7:30 at the Baltimore Police Department Consent Decree Meeting. September 25th at Still Meadow Church in my district, from 6:30 to 8, we'll have a mitigation workshop. And on September 26, 11 to 2 at the Government Agency Disaster Preparedness Expo on Washington Boulevard, there'll be another workshop there. So we're trying to cover as many bases as possible to educate folks on what to do if a disaster happens. And in the current climate that we are in, it is not if, but when. So it is important that we push people to these. And you all should have gotten that in your inboxes from Dave McMillan from the Office of Emergency Management. So please distribute those flyers so that our constituents can come out and learn everything they need to know to prepare their homes should a disaster happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman, I want to thank you personally, you and Adam, for the great work you were doing up in your part of the district. You hosted the National Disaster Month event that the mayor and I both attended. And I thought you was a part of emergency management because you've been really on it. And I want to thank you for being the point person as it relates to that. And Adam, thank you for the great job that you do, making sure that when me and the councilman get there, everything is organized and in order. So again, thank you, Councilman, for your great work. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Clark.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. President, members of the council, first of all, I am greatly rejoicing that somehow we don't need as much emergency response as we thought we were going to at this moment. Somebody's watching over us somehow. But I'm very glad to see this effort for us to train ourselves, because I was literally thinking about a couple places in my district near the Alameda and next to the farmer's market where I was just wondering if we were going to need boats. And then I was thinking, well, where am I going to get them if we do? So I'll be going to or holding or helping out with these briefings because I want to know where the boats are. And I want to make sure I got a couple in my district. I would like to thank the councilwoman, the vice president, for calling out Doug Frost's name, but to say that in a couple words, what a great life. Doug Frost was just a wonderful person who, most of all, he was loving, he was fun, he was fast on his feet and loved life, and life loved him back. He worked at MICA, the Maryland Institute College of Art, for as long as I ever knew him. He was a vice president there, and he's the person who helped identify that the Mount Royal station shouldn't be demolished or abandoned. MICA should buy it and readapt it for classrooms. And that was one of the very, very first projects in Baltimore City that kind of got the idea of readapting, like that was a train station, buildings for other uses, but saving them if they're loved and if they have great architecture. He also wrote the history of Micah. Just after he retired, he wrote the whole history. It took him years, but he finished before he passed. Great person, and thank you for your moment of silence in memory of him. He's grateful. I know, I can feel it. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilwoman Clark, I know they get those boats. I don't know if anybody remember Isabel. They had boats at Caroline and Madison when I was on Madison Street, because we had a big flood there where our basement filled up almost to the second floor of where we live at. So I don't know where the boats come from, but they do have the boats.
Stuck in a firehouse in my district.
We don't want that to ever happen again.
We hope it doesn't, but it's just like, you know, carrying an umbrella so it doesn't rain. If we have a couple boats there, we'll never have to use them. If we don't have them, I'll have to borrow them from my colleagues here. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilwoman, Council Vice President Miller. Oh, Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr.
Y'all
President.
gotta raise your hands, guys, because I don't see you.
I'd like to ask for a moment of silence for John Sullivan, a neighbor of mine who passed away this weekend from complications from prostate cancer. He's an Air Force veteran, later became a real estate agent. I was involved in a number of different real estate associations and in community groups. Enjoyed the opera and photography. Like I said, he was a neighbor, a personal friend of mine, and really a consummate gentleman. And I know that he will be dearly missed by his wife and daughter. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. And Vice President, if you can add Warren Williams. He was a deacon at the church I attend. Warren Williams, W-A-R-R-E-N, last name Williams. Chair recognizes Vice President Middleton.
The next Baltimore City Council meeting will be held October 15th here in Council Chambers at 5 p.m. And may we have a moment of silence for Oscar Cobbs, James Randall Carroll Jr., past master of King David Lodge 18, Richard V. Johnson, Apostle Anthony Fliggins Sr., Doug Frost, former Councilman Kenneth N. Harris Sr., John Sullivan, and Ward Williams, and also a moment of silence for the families of the 208 homicide victims here in Baltimore City, and also the deaths of our Baltimore City opioid epidemic, and also for the families of the Carolinas.
Thank you. There being no further business, this concludes the 42nd meeting of the 72nd term of the Baltimore City Council. Good night.